Well, next, standing in the House of Keys general election, we have Rob Callister for Onchan, obviously a returnee, and that gives us more chance to look back on things as well. Well, 5 years. I mean, how do you sum it up?
It's gone incredibly quickly. I've enjoyed it. I've learned so much about the process and the inter-workings of government. I think I've worked really hard on behalf of constituents. I've engaged with them, been open, transparent and honest all the way through it. I think I'm the first MHK to record my journey for the last 5 years.
Oh, you want to bring that up? I was wondering, because this has been it's been
5 years.
A bit of a thing around your neck, hasn't it? Slightly, because it's around your neck.
It's just one of those things I wanted to do, just to show people, if they wanted to stand for the keys themselves, the commitment they have to put in, the hours they have to put in, some of the issues they have to face, the balancing they have to do. It's an incredibly difficult role, but I have enjoyed sharing my journey. It's only my view, but it's my journey.
So, do you want to list your achievements as you see them in the last 5 years?
Well, I think one of the biggest achievements for me, it depends what you want to do, constituency or from a parliamentary. From a parliamentary and from a constituency, I think the area plan for the East. I spent hundreds of hours, if not thousands of hours, researching that topic to make sure that the views of my constituents in Onchan were absolutely heard, as loud as they could be, at the evidence session and the public inquiry sessions that I attended, in order to ensure that a balanced view was given to that inquiry. Also, over the 5 years, I've worked in 5 government departments. I'm also the children's champion. So I've rolled up my sleeves. I've done the job to the best of my ability, I feel.
I mean, you set out your plan 5 years ago. How does that tick off, your tick list?
Yeah, I was looking at it this morning. I think, I promised that I would support initiatives that brought additional funding to policing. We've done that. I think we wanted trust and reliability back to our links to the island, and I think the purchasers and the steam packet company ticked that box. Obviously, we've got to start from scratch with regard to our airlines. I think we have increased the preschool initiatives and funding that goes into that area as well. So yeah, I've not done too bad from the promises I've made in 2016. But it's surprising how you then, when you are elected, that your priorities do change because you get additional information. But I have been focused on my areas of responsibility, within DFE and DOI and DEFRA, etc.
How was it to be open and honest and keep the public in the loop, which is what you were saying, of course, and then you find when you get in certain positions you can't?
I think it's quite wrong that people are elected and then disappear for 4.5 years and then come back knocking after 6 months. I don't think any of my constituents can accuse me of doing that. My website is fully up to date with all the questions I've asked over the time. My blog's on there, all the other information they need. If someone wants to know what Rob Callister, candidate for Onchan, has done, go onto my website. It's just robcallister.im. All the information's there. It's been fully updated. I've been open and transparent. I've been contactable. I'd like to feel that I've been well within our community, supporting our community throughout the 5 years.
So when you go to the door step, what is the main issue? You're pushing at them, or they're telling you? What
normally happens, how I normally work is I draft a letter of introduction, just to say who I am and what are my sort of ideas, and then I'm going to be listening to the constituents, and then from there I will produce a manifesto, and from that manifesto it will use as my guide if I'm re-elected in September. So
you haven't got anything at the minute you'd say that I'm definitely going to be standing on this particular cause, be it national or local?
Well, it's the same as last time. I want to see, we've just set up Manx Care. It is absolutely important that Manx Care actually delivers a first-class service to the people of this island. We also got to drive up standards, and we've got to lower waiting list. In respect of housing, I want a full review of the island's housing strategy. We need people who are desperately needing social housing to get social housing. We need people out of social housing and into first-time buyer schemes, and that means government may have to support them. Now, we're not talking about government handing out money. We're talking about using initiatives. So it may be the case that government speaks to the bank and come up with a suggestion about an equity release. So the government takes a bit of responsibility, but then the money is transferred back to the mortgage after 5 years. But that allows the market to make change. We've got to look at housing. We've got education. I'm a massive supporter of lifelong learning. I know the fact that most of the unemployed on the island is under 24 or over 50. That is my focus. I want those people who have to have a second career in life because they don't want to retire too early. They need an opportunity to go back to work if they need to, especially when government's moving the date of retirement further and further out.
Would it be fair to say you've been a good boy for the government. You've gone along with most of their plans. You seem to be inside working with them, not particularly opposing. Or how would you sum it up?
I think if anyone goes onto my website, they'll see I've been quite opposing, especially to the area planned for the east, especially with Manx gas.
Yeah.
But what I think is important, you either have a career where you just back off the back bench and you throw stones, or you actually look and pick your fights carefully and have proper fights. So the area plan for the east, I was robust on that, especially on behalf of my constituents. But most of the time, you don't need to be. I worked in 5 government departments, as I've said. I still work in 3 government departments. I'm the only MHK who works in 3 government departments. So I can actually influence policy a lot better there.
A few hiccups, though. Some things you haven't stayed with. What's going on there?
In what?
Departments,
Well, I was in health,
yes.
And obviously that's well documented. I think I've been proven right that I actually kept to my ethics, my principles, how I was elected to the people of Onchan, and I've done that. And I have the greatest respect for Kate Beecroft, but it's my opinion, she made a mistake the way she handled that, and I didn't want to stay around.
And has there been any instances when things that you're in already, you may have been pushed right to the edge, or have you? Has it been robust behind the scenes, or do you
Absolutely, keep that? The landlord bill was one that recently within the Department of Infrastructure, it pushed me to the edge that I came within hours of actually resigning because the bill just wasn't right. What went out for consultation was not right. I'd listened to landlords, I'd listened to my constituents. I went back into the department. Fortunately, the minister and my colleagues within the department absolutely agreed that the bill had to be changed, and with the help of Laurie Hooper and Claire Barber and others, we actually managed to get the bill to be fairer to landlords but also fair to tenants.
You come across clearly as an ambitious man. You haven't yet had the one of the bigger seats, inside the Coman thing, but clearly you must now be eyeing that up if you get re-elected.
I'm not sure I am ambitious. I'm just a person.
Really?
I'm not. I'm just a person that actually tries to do his best. And as you say, if I'm promoted along the way, that's fine.
That's ambition, surely.
Well, it could.
I mean, not sitting here saying I don't want to do it. I'm happy to.
No, but if you're saying to me, would you like to be a backbench in the next administration? Well, clearly no, because I know that if I really want to influence proper change, if I want to bring in, say, for example, proper housing strategy, I need to be in DOI. If I want to bring in lifelong learning, so people who leave school that don't have enough qualifications, like I did, and have to go back to school in their 20s and 30s, I can implement a policy. We've also got to take the island on the climate change journey. That has to be achieved, and we have to start that process as well.
Well, you know what my next question is going to be, is like, where would you like to serve if you were made a minister? Don't give me the I'm trying to pin people down on this one, but not just a general thing.
I've said that I'd love to be education minister. I can drive that lifelong learning. I'm not afraid to go into DOI. I know a lot of people say that's a poison chalice, but I've been in that department since July 2020. I've seen some excellent officers work in that department. It's a very big department, big budget.
It's not the poison chalice, or you think you can turn it around, or
I
what?
think it's about how you communicate those messages. Everyone's going to be voting against, increases in charges. We know that, but I think there's a way the department communicates. I think it needs the right political team, which it hasn't had for a number of years. That, I think, once you've done, if you look at DFE, I personally feel that department's worked incredibly well this last 5 years.
Well, this is where you're home, isn't it? Don't you feel most at home with the motorsports and that sort of stuff?
I agree. I would take on DFE as well. But again, there's other people who'd probably want that department. But it's not for me to make those decisions. All I can do is to serve my constituency.
But people like to see where you'd want to maybe go, because let's face it, they can't pick anything. You have to.
If you're asking me and turn around and say, Rob, what's your priorities? First one would be DFE, because the island's tourism industry is on its knees. The island's motorsports needs to re-engage. So out of all of that, I've already got 5 years history behind me on the tourism. We need to revigor the tourist sector. We have to basically start from scratch. In 2019, we had 308,000 visitors. This moment in time, we have hardly none. So we've got to restart the whole long. And I've really enjoyed working in that particular sector. I've also enjoyed being children's champion as well.
Has it not been tricky though in these? I mean, particularly with the TT and all that sort of thing. What you've seen behind the scenes, what is going on? Do you think you're going to be able to bring this thing back?
Tourist is going to be difficult. Whoever takes on responsibility of tourism will have a couple of years of real difficult decisions to be made. I'm happy to be part of that process. I mean, it's about balance. You need the officers to work with you. You need to make sure the information the officers are giving you is absolutely sound. But then as a political member, you need to work your socks off to support those officers to bring through the right policies and decisions.
Okay, who would you like as Chief Minister?
I'm not too sure at the moment. I voted for Alf Cannon in 2016. I have to say I was very impressed with Alf when we've had the DFE and Treasury workshops. For me, it's about who Alf puts in his team. And that just doesn't have to include me. But I think if Alf, the way I'm thinking, it could be quite a difficult Council of Ministers. The other option on the table at the moment is the Education Minister, Alex Allinson. It all comes down to who they put in their teams, because we need a team that will listen to each other's arguments and actually come forward with the right decision for the island, not just who speaks the loudest or speaks the strongest.
And will you be clear before the election that you will be plumping for one or the other or whatever?
In 2016 I put on my Facebook page and asked constituents who they wanted to vote for. I will do the same, and I will listen to the island's views. Personally, I would love to see a couple of public meetings from our Chief Minister candidates so they can actually put forward their vision for the island over the next 5 years. And it will be a difficult 5 years. We have, as I say, set that climate change agenda. We've got to remember that people are going to be in financial difficulties from COVID. So we've got to allow for that to change. Plus, the government has also lost, we say the word lost, a lot of money during the last 18 months. But that was to protect jobs, to protect businesses. So we have got a starting point.